Hey, well, welcome everyone to our class today. Steve, would you like to announce the title? It's rather long, but we decided to cut it down slightly.
Oh, I think I'm just going to call it Disc Personality Styles. Make it simple and easy.
Yeah. So just to make you aware of some rules that are set out by the division, you must be present and on camera for the duration of the class. You can't disappear. You can go for a quick potty break or a drink, but you need to be present in order to get credit. You also need to have your name displayed. So if for some reason your name is not your name, would you please change that or message me in a chat? You will be given 3 keywords throughout the presentation. They will be told you keyword 1, 2, and 3. You need to write that down, because at the end in the chat, I will share a link to a Google document that you will go to and enter your details, including those keywords, in order to get the CE credit. As I said, these are pretty strict rules put out by the division. And so not that any of you are going to arrive late because you're already on, but if someone comes half an hour late or even 15 minutes late, we can't give them credit for the class. So you're always welcome to join in. This is purely if you want the credit. Any questions?
Did you already give the first code keyword?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that will be done about 10 minutes in, I believe. Okay, so I'll hand the time over to Steve for the class. Thank you. And we have a chat here. You can chat me privately, or you can message everyone. If you have a question to ask, go ahead and interrupt, or you can put it in the chat and then I can give that to Steve. I know he wants interaction with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie Ann. Yeah, I'm not very good at operating the chat, talking and watching the screen at the same time. I'm not really a multitasker. I know you ladies are multitaskers. You're brilliant at it, but I just can't do it. Maybe one day I might get that good. So raising the bar, welcome to all of you joining us today. Particularly those who are joining us for the first time, we welcome you to this class. With Presidio, our main motto is raising the bar. So wherever you are in real estate, we would hope that as we go through whatever training class we attend, we can raise our bar so we can be a little better than we were before we started. Also grateful to have with us our principal broker, Jennifer Yo, who is also the owner of Presidio. She'll be joining me through this class. She's got a lot of experience on this particular topic. Jen, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Exciting to have you all.
Thanks for being with us today, Jen. Of course, also we have Steve Perry with us, who's our regional director as well. So qualifications for this virtual CE class, I'll go through it one more time so we're clear on it. These are the rules set by the division. Display your full name on the screen. Have your video set to on. You must be seen and engaged for the duration of the class. And Division of Real Estate requires that you are in attendance for the whole class for you to receive your credit hours. I'll give you 3 keywords during the presentation that you need to submit at the end of this class for you to receive your credit hours. Any questions on that? Hopefully we've caught 1 or 2 latecomers. If we have got any, they've figured that out. That's our little Merlin. He's our little poodle dog. When he pops up, that will remind me to give you a keyword. So if he pops up and I don't give you a keyword, then just hollow out and say, where's my keyword? And if you've got any questions or comments or any thoughts you want to add to whatever we talk about today, then please just unmute and just talk, just butt in the conversation. We'd love to have you engage into this class. So we're going to be talking about this DISC personality style. You've probably seen this before, and you're probably aware of these 4 words that go with this icon that you may have seen before: in dominance, interacting, steadiness, and consciousness. Conscientious. When you go through this this test, you're not necessarily always going to end up being the same every time you take it. And there are a few different types of discs on the market today. I think I took one of these probably, I don't know, maybe 35 years ago. And since then, I've taken it a few times with different companies. And I either come out with a D or an I. So I suppose you could say I'm the second-hand Brit from the DI. But basically, sometimes it'll change. Sometimes your evaluation or review from the test may change from time to time. So we're going to go through this in some detail. I'm going to show you roughly what we're going to cover in this class. I'm first going to talk to you a bit about the history of the disc, how far back it goes, where it came from. I think that's important to understand a little on. We'll talk about personality styles. We'll talk about how easy and simple it is to work with. We'll look at the characteristics of each of those four areas and how we can use those characteristics in selling to our clients. We'll look at some statistics, and we'll also have a bit of fun looking at the animal kingdom, and then we'll look at the Ford questions. So they're basically the areas we're going to cover in this class, and you can interrupt me any time with any comments or questions or anything you think we may have missed that we could add to. So let's first of all we'll look at the history, because the history is quite interesting. And incidentally, anything I share with you, I tend to get at least 2 or 3 confirmations from different sources to make sure we're in the right neck of the woods, particularly like with statistics. I make sure I'm getting 2 or 3 other sources that are saying the same, so that we are close to where we need to be. Of course, statistics do change from time to time and from company to company. Well, believe it or not, you can trace the disc right back to these 4 elements: fire, air, earth, and water. And you may have seen those symbols in other studies that you've been part of. And you may have seen this guy before. His name is Empedocles. He's a Greek philosopher, about 444 BC. He observed that people generally acted in 4 distinctly different ways, but he believed that it was external environment factors that affected behaviors. So that's as far back as we can go to someone looking at behaviors of people. And this particular philosopher worked on these 4 platforms: fire, air, water, and earth. Oh, yeah, here comes your first key word then, guys. We'll see if we can spell that philosopher's name out. Empedocles, Empodocles, Empedocles. So I'll just let you write that down. That'll be our first key word in this class: the Greek philosopher Empedocles. I think we've all got that. Empedocles is your first keyword. So we move ahead probably about 40 years and we find another Greek physician. And this guy is Hippocrates of Cos. He is he's recognized as the father of medicine. So as anybody here that's actually worked in the medical industry, you'll probably recognize that name because he's quite well known in the medical world. But what he did, he refined these 4 environmental factors into 4 internal temperaments. And these are the ones that he looked at: choleric, sanguine, and then he looked at phlegmatic, and then melancholic. So he started to move these 4 areas into an internal perspective. And these 4 words he worked on were these descriptions. So choleric, bad-tempered or irritable; melancholic, feeling of expressing pensive sadness; sanguine, optimistic or positive, especially in an apparently bad or difficult situation; phlegmatic, having an unemotional and calm disposition. So that's kind of where he went. We're still, nearly 2,500 years away from where we are today. So then we fast forward a little bit to the 20th century. We get this guy. He's a Swiss psychologist in 1921, Carl Jung. And he examined these 4 quadrants and realized that while personality styles are indeed internal, he attributed the difference in personality styles to the way in which we think and process information. And what he did, he worked on these 4 functions of consciousness, the thinking, the feeling, sensation, and intuition. And then he brought in 2 attitudes, introvert and extrovert, and then eventually they went to 4 attributes. But this guy did some work on this, and at the same time there was a mother and daughter team, and you may remember or recognize this word, Myers and Briggs, the MBTI, which still exists today under a different brand name, but they started in 1917, Catherine Cook Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers. They extrapolated their MBTI theory from Carl Jung's writing in his book, Psychological Types. And what they did, they developed into 16 different platforms. And they worked on these 8 areas: the thinking, the feeling, judging, perceiving. And then, of course, they added a little bit to Carl Jung's area with the extroversion, introversion, sensing, and intuition. And today you can actually see the Neris Type Explorer, which is also a disc that you can use, which was developed from about 1942. And you probably will recognize that little logo with the 16 personalities. And their work eventually ended up looking at these main 4 sections that gave the 16 personalities under the analysts, the diplomats, the sentinels, and the explorers. So that gives you a bit of a background there. Now, another name you may find associated with this, which is much more popular, most people have read, is the Marsden disc. William Moulton Marsden, he was the forerunner of the modern disc personality styles. And what he did, he published a book called Emotions of Normal People in 1928. And most of the disc work we find today has some reference to that book that he published. He refined the 4 quadrants of the disc and behavior as predictable traits that we act out in our everyday lives. He saw our disc personality styles defined as these 4 quadrants of personality, which we know today as dominance, interacting, steadiness, and consciousness. So they're basically the 4 or 5 pieces of the puzzle that take us up to the modern day. And I just sort of push those out so you can see roughly how this thing has developed, right as far back as 440 BC up to today. And you'll recognize, if you start searching the disc, you'll find those names in most of the material. Okay, before I go on further, anybody got any comments or thoughts on that sort of basic history? Very good. Let's move on. Today, we at Presidio, we actually used the Tony Robbins disc. That was developed from about the late 90s and stays with the same pattern of the Moulton. And those of you who have taken this, it's a very simple test. There's about 30 questions there. The first 24 is a choice between 4 words. And these 4 words, you've got to pick out the one that's most like you, and you've got to pick out the one that's the least describes you. And they're quite difficult, because sometimes you'll look at the 4 words and you think, I'm all of those 4 words. I don't really want to put any one of them as the least describing me. So often you'll look at the 4 words, you'll think, oh, that's definitely the best one. But when you start to figure out which is the least important for you, then sometimes you'll change the most important. It's funny how that works. So as you take these tests, sometimes your answers may slightly be different, and that may push you into a different box combination. And then they have 6 other questions, which are more of a paragraph choice. But that's basically how this particular test works. It's very simple to do. And when he gives you a report, he gives you a report not only on these 4 areas, but also on your motivating platforms. So basically what the Tony Robbins report gives, it gives you the reports on the DISC, which is the dominance, interacting, steadiness, and conscientious, sorry. And then it gives you a report on the motivators, which is your strengths, your work style tendencies, and where you most effectively work in environments. So that's kind of how this report works. This is a review of the motivators, and you will get a report on every one of these areas when you take the test. So on every one of these, he'll give you a report how you are responding or how you sit within these different motivating platforms. The aesthetics, which is basically concerned with the appearance or beauty of something. The economic, which is economy and profitability. Individualistic, independence, self-reliance, power. Strong with authority, control and influence. Altruistic, selfless concern for the well-being of others. Regularity, state or quality of being regular. And theatrical is concerned with obviously theory and practical application. So that kind of gives you an idea of the DISC today with what we're working with. So before we go, yeah, let's just pull this one out here. Anybody got any questions on what I've done, what I've given you so far, a bit of the history? All right. Let's look at some of these paragraphs here, which is basically all part of this particular Tony Robbins DISC. It's simple, it's practical, it's very easy to remember, focuses on individual patterns of external observable behaviors and measures of intensity of characteristics. It uses scales of directness and openness for each of the 4 personality styles, which are those. It's also has some of the characteristics, but usually one of the, it has all the characteristics that are shared in the report. Usually one of them is more dominant in our personality. And so it will identify that based on the words in which we have ordered during the test. By understanding and having the ability to identify these personality styles, you'll be able to build a stronger relationship with the people in your personal and professional life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We will talk about how we can use the benefit of understanding the DISC in our ability to work with our contacts and our clients, how best to build our relationship with them. We must be able to mirror the social profile of each individual in order to sell to them. So we figure out what profile they are, and then we try and mirror ourselves so that we are comfortable in conversation with them. It takes a bit of practice to do this. So often you can practice this with just normal people that you're interacting with on social or business platforms. And then let's go through these combinations. Once we've got through the combinations, then we'll start talking about how we can utilize some of the benefits of the DISC combinations in our business world. So the DI, basically that's convincing and daring. We've got the ID, which is animated and inspiring. If it's just an I, highly sociable and lively. The IS is upbeat and light-hearted. The SI, supportive and agreeable. The S, pleasantly calm and accommodating. And we have the SC, which is modest and unassuming. We have the CS, which is quiet and self-controlled. The C, analytical and private. The CD, unsentimental, matter of fact. The DC, resolute and strong-willed. And the D, forceful and direct. So basically that's what we have. Okay, so I've given you a chunk of information there, which is probably, gone one in one ear and out the other. And I've just given you a background of where we are at the moment and how this DISC has been created and formulated. So first of all, are any questions on where we've gone so far? Yes, Jenny, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, can you only be 2? Because I've taken the profile and I was pretty even between all 4. Like, are you only able to be like a DEI or an IS or whatever? You can't be 4? Or I don't know. Can you only be have 2 dominated ones?
I think they generally say there's a major one and a second. But when you look through the report, you'll have a report on all of the areas. So the actual report will give you a summary of what they think you are in all of the areas. Jen, is this a good time for you to chime in?
Yeah, sure, Jenny. I've seen a lot of people that do have the 4 across, and they're pretty even, but they still say that they kind of give you your dominant ones. They still say you'll recognize these ones a little bit more. So that's probably further down in your report. They'll probably give you a little bit more of you might be more of this and more of that.
Yeah, very good. And, when you read the report, don't be frustrated or disappointed if there's a line in there that you think, that's definitely not me, because, the report is a general analysis of the information we're giving them, which is very small, really. But it does give you a good direction. It does give you a good direction, but you will find there are some things that it will say that you think, oh, that's not really me. You may find maybe 10 or 20% that you don't really personally think is a good evaluation of you. But the rest of it will be pretty accurate, I think. I say, or a pretty good reference of your character. Is that what you found, Jen? That's what I found anyway.
Yeah, and they give you, what was it, 40, 50 questions, and some of them you just kind of go, I don't really know how to answer that. So you answer it the best you can. So like you said, Stephen, it kind of takes the culmination of all the results and says, this is about where you're at, right? So you can't take it as it's 100% what, accurate, but pretty close for sure.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably 80%. You're going to think, yeah, that's probably a good evaluation of where I am and where my character is. But often when you're working with people, rather than looking at those 2 blocks, if you look at the summary words that are by them, that can usually give you a good idea where people are. You can pretty much figure out if someone's highly sociable and lively, very outgoing and easily connecting and a little bit sort of maybe over friendly or inquisitive, and you think this is probably an I. You can probably figure that out. And if you've got someone who's very quiet and all they're interested in is the numbers, very analytical, you can probably figure out that they're a C. And that's kind of how you can work with people when you're looking at these different styles. And we're going to go through each one of these blocks, and we shall look at other words that you can associate. Like at the moment with the D, it just says forceful and direct, and that may feel a bit negative. But when we look at some of the other qualities that fit with under a D, you'll think, oh yeah, there's some good parts there as well, if you see what I mean. Sometimes when we're just looking at words, we can get a negative feeling if we've had a bad experience with someone who's had that style of leadership, if you can see what I mean. Any other comments on that before we start to go in this into a little bit more detail? Okay. Let's look at the Ds, okay? And what we'll do is we'll look at the characteristic of the D, and then we shall figure out what we can do to identify those that we will consider the characteristic of a D and how we might sell to them. So here are some words that may help us figure out who would be a D. You see determined, task-driven, self-reliant, assertive, a team leader, competitive, problem solver, plays to win, and there's about 18% of the population that are D. And I've got that information from various sources. If you look at some early reports, it was very low. It was like 3 or 4%, but it's actually as much as 18%. And I'll show you a bit later on a report that spans over nearly 30 years that will show how these different styles of characters have not changed very much over the years. So that's what we're looking at as a full characteristic of a D. How do you think we would sell to someone like that? This is where you now share with everybody your wisdom on selling to a D.
You don't beat around the bush. You have you go right to the point.
Yeah, they don't want to mess around. They want to know exactly what's going on. They want to know the price. They want to know the contract. They want to know what they're doing. Yeah, absolutely. Great answer, Jenny. Any other thoughts?
They also want to be seen as decision makers. So it's wise to present them with 1 or 2 decisions that you know are going to be good decisions, and then let them solve the problem.
That's a great answer as well. Notice what Tyler said there. He gave them 2 or 3 options. So what that does with a D all of a sudden likes you because you're playing the game they like to play. Very good. Other thoughts?
D's like
Jen.
bullet points. They don't like you to say, okay, I found a house and it's got this beautiful living room and this really big tall ceilings, and they don't like you to go on and on. They like bullet points. They like this. Hey, I found the house. It was built in 1975. It's got everything you need. I'll meet you there at 2 o'clock. How's that sound? That's how D's like to communicate.
That's classic, that is. How many of you have had an experience where you've had a real strong D that you've had to work with? And maybe you could share with us, I don't know, some challenges that you've found or some successes you've found working with that D. There's bound to be someone here. There's 31 of us on this class. There's bound to be someone who can say, yes, this is what happened. I want to squeeze you out. Mary, did you click on?
I did. When you're working like with an engineer or a doctor, you know, they're just, you know, they want the information and they want it now. They're not about the fluff.
And have you had that experience where you've gone in with an approach and you thought, oh, this is not working. I now need to change my style here. And then you've changed it, and then you've all of a sudden got a completely different response. Have you had that happen with anybody that you could share?
Yes. So I had a listing in Mill Creek, and he worked for NASA, and I had to just get to the point where it was just the numbers. It wasn't anything about the property. You know, I just had to be friendly, but more on task.
Very good. And a D also wants you to be there before time. They do not want to wait around for you. So if you've got a D player and you're thinking of being 10 minutes late, then you might want to say goodbye to that D player, because they're probably going to be onto the next realtor. So if you've got someone who's playing this style of game, you've got to be very sharp. You know, you organize your appointment, you would confirm your appointment, usually in writing, whether it be a text or an email or whatever, and then you'd be there a few minutes early. My father used to teach me, he says, Steve, if you're not there 10 minutes early, you're late. My dad spent years in the Royal Air Force, and so he was on numbers. He was on the time. And if you said to him, what time is it? He'd go, well, it's 10:27 and a half. I think, oh, okay, 20, you know, that's, or it's 2 minutes to. You know, you never get a rough answer on the time. It would be exactly what it is. And that's how D's work. They want to know exactly what's going on. They don't want any fluff. They always want to play the game as quick as they can, because they're busy people and they're on to the next task. Has anybody had an experience working with a D where they have lost ground in their in their business relationship? Anybody lost ground with the D that they can share as an experience?
This is Tyler again. I've lost ground with a D before because I am also a D, and D's, if you know how to work with a D, that's good. But at the time, I wasn't very smart about DISC yet. And I found that we clashed a lot. And I ended up losing ground until I realized I need to get out of the way and let this guy win, because there's a lot more ego with D's.
Yeah, sometimes if you're a D and you're working with a D, you need to not be a D. You need to slip back to maybe a C or an I. You just need to slip back a little bit, because you've got to allow the D to be in the driving seat, because then they'll make more progress, because they're in control. They need to be in control. And you look at those words there, that they're all leadership roles. And a strong D, he only does a straight line on a map. If he wants to get from A to B, it's a straight line. He doesn't go, down the wiggly roads, as we would say in England. Any other thoughts on a D? Now, I have Jen with me, and Jen, as you know, is our principal broker. And I'd like to ask Jen if she could share some thoughts with a D with agents, because she deals with a lot of agents. How many agents do we have? Is it like 300 agents we have in Presidio, Jen?
Yeah, about 300.
Would you like to share with us some thoughts about working with agents when you're recruiting, or when you're, placing them in a particular place, like a broker or whatever, and how you deal with Ds?
Sure. I love this DISC class for this reason, because we use it so much in our business. And I think that there's a lot of agents don't realize how much we need it and how much we can use it in our business. As a broker, yeah, I have 300 different personalities. And I'm high I, high D. And so I when someone has a problem, they come to me and they say, oh, I have this client and I've had this major issue. And they want to go through every little detail. In my mind, I'm going, just tell me what the problem is, who do you represent, and how you want this to, what the outcome you want, right? So that I can solve it. And it's funny because I in that moment, I remember where I'm a D, that's the way I like to be communicated to, but they're also a different style. And because they're a different style, I have to transition into a different style and allow them to be themselves. And if they are a detail-oriented person, like an S and a C, it's okay. Allow them to be detail-oriented and tell me every little detail about the story. And it could take an hour. And I could say, okay, I know the answer to your problem within the first 5 minutes, but allow them to be themselves. But it's so useful because of that reason. People, that's the way they express and the way they communicate. And if that's the way they communicate, that's also the way they understand things. And so if you don't allow them to communicate with their DISC style, then they don't understand. If I went right back with them going, who do you represent? What's this, and what's that? They're going to go, no, you don't know the whole story yet. I have to tell you the whole story. And to me, I go, that's all I need to know, right? As a broker. And so it's kind of funny because I have to understand people have different styles and have different communication styles. So I love this as a broker for sure.
Thanks, Jen, for sharing that. I love it when you say, you've got to get to know their style in order to communicate to them. And sometimes you've got to just, in a sense, be like their style. And in your mind, you're a little bit frustrated because you've got other things to do, but it doesn't help them if you just give them the answer. They actually want to have the experience or the journey to get from A to B, because that's where they get their happiness. And often we can have a client and they get into the home, if we're showing them a home, and they're really interested in lots of small detail. They are interested in the look of the carpet, the pile of the carpet, and the paint, and the cabinets, and whether the cabinets are, proper wood, or, how they're made, and they want to do the measurements. They want to live there as they are walking through the house. And And if you're a D agent showing them and you're thinking, let's just get in and out here, 6-7 minutes, let's be done, so we move on to the next place. I can tell you this house isn't going to work because I know exactly what you're looking for, and this house doesn't have what you're looking for. But they don't know that, so they've got to go through the experience. And so we'd have to be patient if we're dealing with someone who's got a different characteristic style than we have. Any other thoughts or comments or examples that anybody's had with clients working as a D or working with a D? Can I squeeze one more example out of you guys? Squeeze one more. There must be someone in there thinking, oh, maybe I'll say this or maybe I won't.
I have one, Steve.
Perfect.
I was thinking with D's, they like lists and they like the analytical. So for me, I like to allow them a little extra time when showing homes because they do want to look for all the things on their checklist in their mind. So they bring their tape measure to measure rooms and RV pads and things like that. So I think that helps me to kind of analyze how much time I'm going to need with this client and to give them that time because they are like working the numbers and things through their head.
Perfect, Sarah. Thanks for sharing that, because that's really important when you're planning out your day, particularly you've got like, half a dozen homes you're going to visit. You don't want to squash them in too tight because you're going to run out of, you're going to run out of places to go because you run out of time. So you've got to make sure you build it so it's right for the person you're working with. So it's about 18% of the population that are D. This particular source that I used, which was probably the best one I could find online, which was similar to others, but it had a more comprehensive result. They had taken just under 100,000 test results, and that's how they got with these percentages. So about 18% of these. On this one, I think we've covered most of these. Let's see how good we did. We covered the facts, we covered the numbers. I think asking questions is good. If you're dealing with a D, if you're asking the questions, the D likes that because the D's back in control. Listen for clues, that's important, and be aware that they are going to make a pretty quick decision. I've had a D before that's gone, we've got to the house, no, not going in there. And I was saying, hold on a minute, we need to go in because, these people have got their house already and, they've left the house, they've got the dogs out, they've got the kids out. We need to respect them and at least walk their house. No, it's definitely not going to be. I don't like it. So I've then gone into the house and walked around it to make sure that I've been in the house because sometimes a D will, they're switched off. There's something they don't like about it, and they're done and dusted. And so you have to respect them, move on quickly, but you also got to respect the people that you are or have booked the appointment with. They do work best with the S and the C, and they do struggle a little bit with the I. Why do you think they struggle with the I? Anybody got any ideas why a D might struggle with an I, an interacting person? There must be someone there who's thinking, I wonder if it's because of this. And if you're thinking that, tell me, because someone else will be thinking the same, guarantee.
They may just feel like they're wasting their time with an interactor, somebody who's, anyway.
Perfect answer. That's exactly what they think. They're wasting their time. Like Jen said earlier, sometimes an agent, they've got to go through the process. And Jen's thinking, I could be doing something else on this. This could be wasting my time, but it's not really wasting my time because I need to give this person a platform to build from. I need to make this person feel comfortable that she or he can communicate with me and can get the answer. So even though we may feel that it could be wasting our time, it will not be in the long term. Okay, any more thoughts on the D? All right, let's move to the I. Let's look at these characteristics of a I. Well, great salespeople, consultants, hospitality, entertainers, confident, friendly, generous, outgoing, loves people, poised. So about a third of the population are I's. All right, so let's think about some of the I's that we've worked with and some of the successes or some of the challenges we've had with an I. Anybody? Give me some thoughts on when you've worked with an I. Or do we have some people here that are full I's and they, you know, they know they're a good I, and they've found challenges maybe working with another characteristic because they are a full-on I.
I'm not a
Yes,
full,
Seth.
I was gonna say, I'm not a full I, but I have to turn on my I anytime I do a client event.
Absolutely. Tell us about that.
I'm just saying, like, that's when I have to like really be outgoing, is for client events. I can't do it all the time, but I can do it for events.
You can survive long enough to make an impression, huh? Very good. Yeah, sometimes we do have to be actors in this game, and we have to be the people that people need us to be in order for us to be able to communicate. Sarah, did you put your hand up as well? Did I see that?
I did. I am a full-fledged I, and I feel like I's are people pleasers, and they will do what they can. They will go out of their way to serve those that they work with. And so sometimes that can be really annoying to D's, I'm sure, because we will give you the time, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and D's just want to get it done. So I am a full-fledged I.
Do you ever find, Sarah, that sometimes you may be spending too much time with a client, and then you get to the end of the day, you think, I probably could have done that in less time, but now it's done. But that's the way I work.
Always.
Right.
The answer to that is always. I always feel like that. And sometimes I feel like maybe I come off a little too maybe in your face, because I want to make sure that you know how much I care about you and how much I'm thinking about you. And so I have to sometimes go, am I texting or calling or giving too much to them? Is that not their personality? And maybe I'm coming across very in your face, but it's really just because I want the best. I love people and I want them to be so happy and loving, and, you know, so yeah, that's me every day.
When you are an I, a lot of times people take advantage and want more than normal as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And we love our I's. I'm glad that Sarah mentioned, you know, that there needs to be a choice of how you use communication, whether you're, you know, on the phone or whether you're in person or whether you're texting or whether you send an email, because that does make a difference. Particularly with certain characters that you're dealing with. And then Scott, you know, you're right in saying that sometimes you can be taken advantage of. Not that I don't think an I is ever worried because they want to give all the time anyway. It's not that they think, oh, they took advantage of me. It's just that they think, oh, I've run out of day. I can't get the other things done today. But it was a good time when I was out there with my client.
But if you're
any other thoughts?
They expect more and they push you more than what your normal client does.
Oh, for sure.
Correct. Absolutely.
And then you end up doing.
You're doing a bit more than maybe you need to. But in saying that, I think, you know, if you're giving a good service, then, you know, people are always going to come back to you.
Oh, they always call you back and they do refer you out. No doubt about that.
Good. Thank you for sharing that, Scott. Does anybody have any challenges? Anybody that's not an I, who's had a challenge dealing with an I?
Well,
can I ask a question about
Yes.
what if you have a wife that is definitely an I and a husband that's a D?
Ooh.
Oh, that's a great combination.
And so, but the wife is the decision maker, but the husband wants to be involved too. It's been a little tricky because I'm trying to balance between the two different personalities. So any suggestions on that?
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Manette, because that's one thing that sometimes we as realtors forget, that when we're dealing with a couple, often they can be two different characters, and we've got to deal with them in different ways. So I'm glad you raised that, and this is a good conversation for us to have. So before I comment any further on that, there's bound to be someone out there who's got a good suggestion or a good comment or a good thought on that. How do we deal with a couple where we've got two different characteristics that we're trying to work with?
Plant the seed and let that be their idea.
Very good. Plant the seed, let it be their idea. Very good. Thank you, Scott. Anybody else?
I
Yes.
just dealt with a client. Now I have a rule. I only speak 3 times. So this is it. You won't hear any more comments, and I apologize. But
good.
I just had a couple that was that way. And I think he was more a D and she was an I, but she was the decision maker. And so I tried to appease both sides of their personality. I would reach out to her a lot more than I would reach out to him. I would give him the numbers. He wanted the bottom line at all times. So I kind of appeased to both of them in that regard and let them communicate between the two of them, because ultimately it is their decision.
Good. So you kind of throw a few little nuggets out there for them to work with. That's a good idea. And any other thoughts? Maybe Jen, are you still there, Jen? Could you share with us some of your insight on how we might answer that question, where we've got two different, maybe conflicting characters in a couple that we're trying to help both?
I actually find, and this isn't 100% across the board a rule, but I find that most couples are completely opposite. And like, for instance, I'm a high I, high D. My husband is a SC, and he is the guy that will get in his car and he will take a minute and he'll hit the start button. And while it's sitting there, he'll take his seatbelt and he'll put it on. And then he'll touch the radio button and he'll turn it on. And then he'll, take a couple more minutes, and then he'll put it in reverse and he'll leave. And I'm the person that gets in the car, throws it on, rams it in reverse, and backs down as fast as I can. We're completely opposite. And yet I think, there's a really good balance there between husband and wife. He helps ground me as a go person, right? So I think there's a lot of that you'll find. And I think it's important as a salesperson to acknowledge that, like Sarah said, where she saw the two different and she knew how to communicate differently between the two of them. It's extremely important that you recognize that as a salesperson, because if one of the spouses doesn't like you, I don't like her at all, she's just too fun, she's an I, she's just having so much fun, and I just need to get right to the point and know what we're buying, then you might lose a sale, right? The D, and he's the one that's making the decisions. He might be the one that says, let's get a new realtor. I don't like them at all. And so I think it's really important for you to recognize both characteristics, but I do find it quite funny that most spouses, most married people are pretty opposite, or at least different styles for sure.
That's a great point, that is, Jen. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, we need to be careful we don't lose a client because we don't recognize their style. And it would not be fun if the D said, that's it, I'm done, I don't like the realtor, and the other half has got no say in it. You're toast. So very good. Let's see how well we did on some of these. Once to talk about it, you'll find if you've got an eye, they seriously do want to talk about the home in probably a lot of detail. They want to love the home. You've got to see some excitement from this person. You'll know if they like the home. In fact, sometimes they like all the homes. I remember taking a client round, and I went to the first house. I think we got a lot of homes to deal with. I mean, it was something like 11 homes in a full day. So it was a full game. And they went to the first home, And him and his wife loved it. So the piano will go here. I put the chest over here. But this will be her bedroom. This will be his bedroom. I thought, oh, this is going to be the house. They're going to want this one. So I say, well, what are you going to give this? You know, I used to say, what are you going to give it out of 10? 1 to 10. 10 is my very best, and 1 is a no, and, you know, 5 maybe, or 6 maybe. Oh, definitely a 9. You know, 8 or 9. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is the house. I go to the next house, exactly the same. They love the house. They're putting the furniture in there. They're telling where the kids are going to have. I said, we're going to give this one. Oh, yeah, 8 or 9. So I thought, well, this is pretty good. I got 2 houses. Well, nearly every house was an 8 or 9 because they just loved it. And I was in a bit of a problem then because they loved all the houses. Sometimes you can find that with an I. They're so excited and so enthusiastic that everything's good. So sometimes it can be difficult to read. Has anybody else found that with clients where they've found, you know, what exactly do they like? Because they like everything. How do we get with those? Oh, there's another one there. Okay, so they're the basic points that we might want to look at when we're trying to sell to an I. You know, they're party folk. They work best with I's and S's, and they do need to be excited about the home. Any thoughts on that, or anything to add that I might have missed? Anybody out there who's not commented who would like to say something on this screen? Bound to be someone out there, because whatever you're thinking, someone else is thinking the same.
When you were talking about your rating them from 1 to 10, what I've done with some clients, when you pick up real quick that this is how they are, I make them choose from, okay, we've just seen this house, now we've seen this house, which house did you like better? Okay, I like house number 2 better. All right, number 1 we're throwing away in the trash. And then you go to the next house and you do it every single house. That way, when you're down to the end, they're, okay, well, now we have maybe 2 homes that you really, really like, but you make them choose to get rid of one along the way as you're going.
Melanie, that's a great idea, great suggestion. Yeah, certainly if you're going to give them a choice, I think usually an I will make a choice. They will feel stronger and better about one rather than the other. Very good. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else got anything to add to that? Okay, let's move on. Oh, there we are. Struggles with D, C and D. Didn't put that one in there. Let's move on to the S's. So, steadiness of pace. Very supportive, composed, deliberate, stable, steady. Works with everyone. No struggles here. And the percentage on these is another 1/3-ish. So how are we going to sell to these guys? These guys look like they do everything right. So they're not going to fall out with you anyway, by the looks of it. Claudia, have you just come on? Did you want to say something?
I just clicked something. I didn't mean to. Okay.
Oh, we're grateful to have you on. We'd like to see you. I can only see a few faces, you see. So when you click, it's great. You get a chance to talk.
Can I just say something about S's? Because I'm a definite D. S's drive me crazy. I talk fast. I get to my point. I do what I need to do. And I find, and it's very clear, very, very clear. The minute I start speaking with people, when they speak slowly and they pick their words and they're very deliberate, that they're going to be an S. And so that's when I have to just grit my teeth and speak at their pace.
Right.
And move at their pace. And it's really hard, but that's what I have to do and there are a lot of S's in this world. And I just have to completely change my vibe on how I move through real estate and what I do. I just have to slow down and take my time and be very deliberate.
Very good, Claudia. And you mentioned something there very important. You use the word, you have to mirror them. And that's what we have to do. We have to mirror what they're doing, because then they automatically think we are with them. We can't race ahead because we'll leave them behind. And Jen, you said your husband was an S. Is that right?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
an SC for sure.
That's why he's in the motor, working out exactly what he's going to do before he gets going, by which time you're halfway down the road.
He's very deliberate, very stable. And I think maybe that's what I was attracted to when I was dating him. He's just a stable guy. He's just consistent. There was never any question of what he's doing, just consistent guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
And we need plenty of S's in the world.
Absolutely.
And as we go through these characteristics, and I did mention at the beginning, I'll just mention it again. We all have all 4 of these pieces in our makeup. It's just that one of them may be more dominant than another, or less dominant than another, but we're all made up with the same stuff. So when you look at some of these, you may think, oh yeah, I'm a D, but I'm also one of these items fits me as well. And that's totally fine. So you don't have to think yourself you're totally in a box. And when we're dealing with people, we must also remember that they're not totally just in one box either. That we're looking at where their strongest edge is in their character, so that we can support that, and not only support it, but that we can complement them. And as we do that, we'll build our relationship in such a way that they will be comfortable to work with us. Okay, because often people are they're not conscious that they're judging a character, but we do judge characters. It's kind of an automatic built-in system in our makeup. Okay, any other thoughts on S's? How would we deal with an S that was not progressing? So say, for instance, we showed them maybe show them a couple of dozen houses, and we were not making any progress. How would we deal with an S to help progress them? I'm sure someone's had an experience like that. It's bound to be someone there who's not spoken yet, who's thinking, maybe I should share my thought. Can I squeeze you out? Or maybe I'll squeeze someone out who's already said something.
We have to be really patient with these people. They're the ones that, if as realtors, most realtors are in the DI department because, we have to make decisions, we have to be friendly, that type of thing. But so oftentimes these people will drive us crazy, like Claudia said. But they're the ones that take their time. And they're the ones that in a market like today, we're going to go home and think about it. And you're going, are you kidding me? You don't think about it in this market. You make a decision right now. And so we have to be really, really patient with these S's and understand that that's their process. That's how they make a decision. And if we force them to be like a D and make a decision, then they very well could back out, say, I don't feel comfortable. This doesn't fit within my comfort zone, and we lose a sell. So we have to be patient with them and allow them to go through their process.
Yeah, patience is the key, and what I found, I don't know if you found the same, when an S makes a decision on their own, very rarely are they going to back off that decision. It's kind of like a solid, they've taken the process, they've figured out this is now the house I'm having, I'm ready to go, and it's pretty concrete. Does everybody have that same experience with an S? Once they've made a decision, it may take them a while, but they're pretty concrete. Yeah? Very good. Okay, let's see how well we did on the S, shall we? Well, there's a bit of patience. Be a great listener. Ask good questions. We talked about mirroring them. We didn't talk about body language, but maybe we should talk about that. Your body language, your voice volume, and how you speak and how quickly you speak. That's pretty important. Maybe we did talk about the speed, but yeah, we need to slow down, and we need to be much more gentle when we're working with an S. I like the be in tune and be supportive. Anything we can add to that, or any comments on that screen? Okay, let's move on to the C, shall we? Oh, there we go. Merlin's back. All right. So the keyword for this one is body language. Body language is your second keyword. You already had the first keyword, but I won't repeat that. But if you were not around and the first keyword was given, then talk to Leslie Ann through chat. But this second keyword is going to be body language. B-O-D-Y, language, body language. That is your second keyword. And we'll have one more keyword before we get to the end. I think we're about halfway through, so we're doing pretty good. Okay, anybody want to?
Thank you for saying the keyword again.
Good.
Can you?
Body language is the second keyword.
What is the first one?
The first one, you'll have to talk to Leslie Ann about that, because I don't repeat that again. You'll have to talk to Leslie Ann through chat. Okay. So talk to Leslie Ann through chat, and she'll see. She'll deal with that first keyword. The keywords are given to make sure you are participating throughout the class. In order for me to qualify you with the division, they require me to do these keywords and to make sure you're there. So the second one is body language. All right, let's go on to the characteristics of a C. Conscientious, accurate, analytical. These are your accountants, aren't they? Detailed, diplomatic, sensitive, tactful. Works best with C, D, and S. So if we've got a C out there and we're selling their house, or we are hoping to sell their house, we're meeting with them on a presentation, and we're one of 3 or 4 other realtors that they have invited into their home, and we're hoping to get the listing. How are we going to handle that presentation? What are some of the components that we need in our presentation to help get the C's on board with us? Any thoughts on that?
Are you there?
Yes, Claudia, fire away. Thank you.
I do a lot with the same, C's and D's, because they are analytical. They're straightforward. So anytime I know I'm walking in with an engineer or an accountant or a professional in that way, I have an extremely detailed market analysis, in-depth market analysis, because they want to see where you're going and how you got there and all of the data that goes with it.
Yeah, and I like the way, Claudia, you said they want to see it. They do want to see it visually. They love to see it all written down. And that's kind of how these people process information. For you just to walk into the presentation and tell them, that's okay. But if you can give them a sheet with it written down, they like that even more. That's what I've understood. Any other comments on that? When we're presenting to a C, what other things do you think we should be thinking about? When you look at the word diplomatic, how can that help us when we're presenting to a C? Bearing in mind that's one of their characteristics. Anybody got any thoughts on that? You look at the word sensitive and tactful, diplomatic. How does that help us in a presentation to a C? There's bound to be someone out there I can squeeze with an answer. If not Jen, she'll respond, but she'll wait. We'll see if we can squeeze someone out with a comment. Anybody who's dealt with a C? How do we work with a C when we know that they're a detailed person, but they've got these other three words: diplomatic, sensitive, and tactful? How are we going to deal with that when we're presenting? Tyler, I'm going to pick on you because you're smiling. I can see you smiling there, Tyler. Come and tell us what you're thinking.
I'm trying to stay quiet because I love microphones. But whenever you sell to an analyst, you got to have all your stuff together. You need to have charts and graphs, more emphasis on the data in tables and stuff like that. They love to see everything. It's not good enough to say, well, home prices or homes are going up by 10%. They want to know it is 10.5% in my neighborhood, which extends to this street, to that street. You want to help them, you want to defer to their analysis, and don't be afraid of silence. They're not ignoring you. They're actually thinking. They're going through everything in their mind, and you need to give them an opportunity to think. And when you give them, if you interrupt them as a D, or as someone who's very assertive with their time, if you interrupt them, they will be offended. That is not tactful to them. But if you give them enough time, if you just shut up and get out of their way, they will come to the conclusion after their analysis, and they'll look up at you. That's the thing you look for. When they look up at you and then start talking, you know that they've analyzed everything and they're ready to move on.
That's great. That's exactly what I wanted. Absolutely perfect. Allow them to go through the process, because if you give them a detailed report, which we hope you will, they are going to read it and they are going to process the information. It has to go through and they have to work it out, and you've got to allow them time. I like it when Tyler says, when they look up, then you're ready to go. Love that. Great. Jen, anything else to add on to C that you can think of?
I find that Cs make really good secretaries and office administration staff. When I'm hiring for positions like that, I look for Cs with, some S's and things like that. And what I've found, obviously, where I'm the boss and I come in Monday morning and, my style is good morning and move on and go right to my office, that's not how they want to be approached on Monday morning. And so I've had to be very aware that they want me to go, hi, how was your weekend? And listen, and tell me a little bit more about that, and really give them an opportunity to, communicate and feel heard and things like that. And so I've had to learn that characteristic pretty well, because obviously when you run a company, you have a lot of C's around you, because they make really good detail oriented, positions like assistants and things like that. So it's an interesting characteristic for sure.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you, Jen, for that. Thank you. We're looking around 16% of the population at the moment that are sitting at that C position. Let's see how well we did on how to sell to a C. Have all the facts. We talked about that. Know the numbers. And when we say know the numbers, we're not just giving them the numbers, but we actually need to know the numbers, because they will most likely going to ask us a question. So don't just sort of run a report off and then think you're done, because most likely the C is going to read the report and then there'll be a question and they'll ask you a question. So you need to know what numbers you're giving them so you can give them the answer.
Can I say one thing? In regards to that, about if they ask us a question, if you really truly do not know the answer, they want to know the right answer. If you don't know it, it's totally okay to say, I don't know the answer to that right now, but I will jump on and I will find that answer for you and get back to you as soon as I can. Don't just make something up.
Perfect. I'm so pleased you brought that up. Yeah, you can't fool these people. You could probably fool an I, but you can't fool a C. You've got to be able to say, now that's a real good question. Leave it with me. I'll find the answer. I'll come back to you. They like that, rather than giving them just an answer off the cuff that may be in the whereabouts true or not. So very good. Thank you for raising that, Melanie. Appreciate that. We covered the need to think about it. We covered that, slow to make a decision. They also do like an offer of more information. So if the conversation goes in a certain direction where you think in your mind, maybe they would like this or that, you could say to them, you know, I could find out a little bit more about that for you and I'll come back to you. They do like that. So that may be something you can add in on some sort of, you know, presentation you were doing for a C. Anybody like to add anything else to the C? Okay, we've probably covered all 4 now. Let's have a look at them, shall we? Let's have a look at how these are looking. So there we have it. I'm going to bring up, in the US in 1993, they were the percentages that were done by this particular company in a survey. So 70% D, 8 C, 45 S, and 29 I. And then just 20 years later, you see our difference? Not much difference. A little bit of an increase in the C. Okay, decrease in the S, increase in the I. D stayed the same. And in 2017, there's not much difference, but there is a difference. You can see, you know, over that sort of nearly 30-year period, or whatever it's 25-year period, the C's have doubled, the S's have reduced slightly, and the I's have increased. So here's a question. As we look at those statistics, what does that tell us about people today? What do you think the trend is telling us? Obviously, there's probably about the same amount of D's out there, but what do we learn from the other 3 segments?
So,
must have some, yes.
Well, I was wondering, okay, so 1993, we didn't have any smartphones or any social media really. So
oh, you're good. You're right on the money. You are very good. Carry on.
I was wondering if people are becoming a little bit, because like S, that's like the outgoing, and right? Isn't that the no? That's I. Okay, well, I was wondering if that's what. No, never mind. I'm not sure how that would affect it. But that's what I was noticing.
You're definitely on the right track. You're on the right track.
I'm just trying to think why S went down. But I'm thinking it's because of our smartphones, though.
Yes, you're definitely tapping into something good there. Who would like to build on that? Maybe someone out there has got a thought on this. Anybody?
People are more informed.
Yeah.
Oh, say that again, Scott.
People are more informed.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Definitely more informed. That's another piece of the puzzle. Jen, were you going to say something? No, who was it else? Someone else said at the same time that Scott spoke.
It was me. I'm Bridget Toon. I would say
Bridget, I'd like to see a new face on the screen. Thank you.
We're dealing with the time period of like the .com boom, internet becoming majorly available, and then access to the internet also has helped people just be more educated and informed, like Steve said.
Yeah, how do you think that's affected these numbers or these percentages?
Well, I think that you see more S when people are more insecure about what they do or don't know. And when they have more access to more information, they feel less insecure about making decisions. So it would reduce that.
Very good. And if you notice, because there's more information available, you'll see that the C has doubled. You know, the percentage was 8, and now it's 16%, because there's more information available because of modern technology. You know, we don't see many people go to the library these days, do they? They just literally go to this. That's their library. And they can find information within seconds that, you know, 30 years ago, if you went to the library, would take you hours to find. So there's much more detail that's available much quicker. And so that's why the C has increased. The S has decreased a little and the I has increased a bit. So why do you think those two have changed positions? Anybody got any idea of that? Why the I and the S have switched out a little? So less S, a little bit more I. We know why the C has, because there's more information out there, more detailed information. Why do you think the I and the S have kind of switched a little? Whatever your answer is going to be right. So don't think I don't know the answer to this. Just say something so that we can build on it. This is a really good discussion point. This will help us when we're working with people, because we see what a trend is going. We already know that there's probably going to be the same amount of D's out there as there were, 30 years ago. That's one sort of a fifth of the people we work with are going to be D's.
People are more opinionated now.
More stimulated.
Opinionated. Do you have a chart that goes past 2017 by chance?
No, I couldn't find one. This is the earliest one I could find. But
I would
more
think
opinionated.
I would think it's changed a lot in the last few years.
Yes.
A lot more than it has since '93.
Very good. Do you think it has something to do with the age of the market? So we have younger people buying more houses than they did maybe 20, 30 years ago. Would we agree with that? We've got more younger people buying, haven't we? That may make a difference between those two blocks, the S and the I. Any thoughts on that? Now, here's another question then. Looking at that information, how does that help us when we're dealing in our real estate market, working with our clients? We already covered one trend is we're probably going to see more analytical people out there. Okay, because we do know the C has increased. What can we learn from those other two blocks below? Anything or nothing?
How you approach the market at large.
Oh, just say that again, Tyler.
How you approach the market at large. If you're going to throw an ad on Facebook, for example, don't cater it to your high Ds, cater it to larger percentages because you're looking for more callbacks. So when you walk into a situation, make an assumption in general that you're going to be dealing with those higher percentages and then adjust as necessary based on what you find.
Perfect. That's the perfect answer. And there was someone else had a comment as well at the same time. Who was it? Because I can't see all the comments. Someone else spoke.
It was higher education, I would think.
Oh, higher education. Is that what you said, Scott?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah. Those 2 points very important. When Tyler's talking about if you're doing a market campaign to a large area of people, you've got to think that most of your market, 60 or 2/3 of your market are going to be I's and S's. So if you want to maximize your return on that campaign and you base it on those two characteristic styles, you're probably going to get a reasonable return. Whereas if you based your market just on the D's, you're looking at only a fifth of those that may respond to that style of approach. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what you can learn from those graphs. Is you can learn that we're in a modern era, and at the moment, 2/3 of our population are really sitting at the I and the S platform. So if we're doing big marketing campaigns, that we'd probably be more successful if we were aiming our look at those.
Stephen, can I just mention that to me, I feel like it's also driven by emotion with the millennials that we have.
Yes.
They have the information at their fingertips, but they also want the emotion and feeling to come out of it. So I think they're using technology, videos, that kind of stuff. They want the information to kind of sway them one way or the other because they have the information, but they also want to feel connected. And so that's where the emotion comes in.
Very, very good. I'm glad you raised that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to touch their heart in order to get them on board, and that's what we're talking about. Very, very good, very good. Okay, let's move on then, and let's have some fun on this slide. So if we were to look at an animal, we said this animal is the D. Which animal are we going to choose? Okay,
The
you're probably going
lion.
to get the lion. Who said that?
Jen.
Jen. Jen, let's see if you're correct. Oh, it's the lion. There we go. Jen knows the lion well. She's the lion of the lamp in her home. Terrific. Great. Let's see. What about the eye then? Who's going to come up with the eye?
I don't know. It's like a social butterfly, right? So maybe a butterfly. I don't know. That's not an animal.
Social butterfly could be good. That's not the one I've got here, but social butterfly could probably work. Any other
Parrot.
thoughts? Who said that?
That was Tyler. I said a parrot.
Oh, a parrot.
A monkey.
Oh, what did you say, Melanie?
A monkey.
A monkey? That's the one I got. It's the monkey, the chimp. But the parrot's a good one as well. And the social butterfly. Okay, what about an S? This is easy if you think
Like
most
an
people have
elephant.
got one of these. What's that?
An elephant.
A sloth?
Sloth.
An owl.
I want to say a sloth.
They're good ideas, they are. But it's not what I have here. Jen, you may be able to tell me what this is. You've got one of these in your home, I think. What
The
about
golden
a dog?
retriever.
The golden retriever, actually, that comes up as the highest on the S. And then the C, I'd never have got this one, but I did do
Owl.
some research on this. That is a good suggestion, actually. That's not the one I've got. Anybody got any idea? You would never get this, but when you look at it, you think, oh yeah, I can see how that would be a C. I can see why they've got a C for that one. So the giraffes there. So we got the dominance, we got the interacting, we got the steadiness and the consciousness. So there we are. I thought that'd be a bit of fun there. Has anybody heard of the Ford questions? I know sometimes think about the motor Ford. I've tried to keep away from that for copyright platforms. So I'm going to go with the stream Ford because I think it's more appropriate. But has anybody seen the Ford questions before? If you've not, we're going to go through these. These are quite fun, easy to remember. So I based this basically on a ford. A ford is a little stream you can walk through. That's just not an English word, by the way. I did check. It is an American word as well. And I think it's spelt the same. But if I get that wrong, do tell me. But I want you to feel relaxed when you're asking these questions. I want you to feel natural. I want you to be sincere. So think about it. Maybe you're just walking through the stream. You need to be calm. When you're asking these sort of questions, don't bang them out one after the other. You know, you've got to just envelope them into your general conversation. Because as you ask these type of questions, you'll learn information. So the F stands for family and friends. So when you're thinking about the Ford questions, some of your questions will be based on family and friends. So you're going to ask questions that are centered on them. Might be something like, where are you originally from? I have some others in there. Let me ask you if you can give me some F questions. What sort of questions could you ask about the people? Could be any question. We'll see how close we get to the ones I've got here, but there's lots.
I think a good one on this one would be, do they like to entertain? That could give you an idea on what type of a house they might want. Do they want a big backyard because they like to entertain?
Yeah, and that's a great question, that is, Melanie, because not only does it tell them what sort of house they want, it also will probably give you an indication of what sort of character they are. Does that make sense? So you can learn a lot from that question. What other questions could we ask about their family or about them and their friends?
So these are home-centered questions? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, home-centered questions, Jenny. Yeah, what would you say?
Something I like to ask people is, what room do you spend the most time in? Because then I know what, if something has to be compromised, we know where we can't compromise.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. Yeah, you'd also know if they love cooking, they'll be in the kitchen, or if they love crafting, they're going to be in the craft room, or if they love gardening, they're going to be outside. Yeah, that's a great question. And it gives you an idea of what sort of property you're looking for. And it also gives you an idea of what sort of character they are as well, most likely. Let's have some other questions on family and friends for the F.
Maybe how many people stay over night at times?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, because obviously, you know, they'll probably need an extra room, a guest room, if they do that on a regular basis. I'll put some others up here. Let's see if we can get some other thoughts on this. You know, it's simple. How is your family? You know, what's your son doing? When does your daughter graduate? You may find that in conversation. Any other thoughts on what sort of other family questions we could ask?
This is a good way to reconnect with your clients. And when you see something on Facebook about their family, like their daughter won the spelling bee or something, it's a great time to say, oh my gosh, and celebrate with them. I saw that they won the spelling bee. That's so great. And, you know, remember that these people, those things are big deal to your clients. And if you don't make it a big deal, then they don't feel like you're as connected to them as they want you to be, right? So make a big deal out of things that they're celebrating.
Yeah, very, very good. I think sometimes these questions can be difficult for some of us, particularly if we're a D. We may not consider these questions to be an advantage because they're not necessarily an advantage for us. If someone was asking us the question, but they are an advantage for us to learn about the client. Obviously, if we were an I, we'd be all over this. I think it was Sarah that said she was an I. She'd be all over this. She'd be so much time spending asking these questions, she wouldn't be showing any homes. But you know, we've got to get to know the family. So, any other thoughts on other questions that we could share? You know, let's just share some questions here so other people can get an idea of types of questions they could ask. Can I squeeze someone out of my 31 people who's not said anything?
I like to ask what they're doing now with work due to COVID. Are they working from home? Are they still in their office? You know, that kind of stuff. Good,
and that takes us nicely into the next one actually, because we do have O, which is occupation. But so we'll get onto that, Sarah. Thanks for raising that. But another one you may ask, if you know the family and they know another family, and maybe they've done something with that family, you can ask how the other family are going or doing. You know, I put here, I heard you went with the Hendersons to Bear Lake. How are they doing? So you can ask a question to your client, a sort of family and friend question that may introduce you to another contact that is their contact. They may say, you may say, oh, how are the Browns doing, or the Smiths doing, or whatever. They say, oh yeah, they're doing good. They're actually thinking of maybe moving out of state because they've got some aging parents that they're thinking of looking after. And all of a sudden that should ring a little bell in your head, thinking, oh, maybe I should contact them and see if they need some help with selling their home. So you can ask questions about family and friends that will lead to other contacts that they may have and you may have, that you may learn information on. Does that make sense? Any thoughts on that? Or has anybody had an experience where that's actually happened, where they've spoke to a client about another common contact or just another contact they don't know, and it's led to another transaction for you? Anybody got something to share on that?
These forward questions bring me so much business on Facebook. Just, instant messaging people and asking questions about something they just post about, or, anything like that. It gets the communication going to where then they remember, oh, you're in the business, and they, without you having to say constantly, I'm a realtor, send me business. Who do you know that's looking to buy or sell? And you're in their face, right? When you're just being their friend, then they want to be your friend back. It's a reciprocal thing. And being a friend is knowing everything about you too. Oh yeah, you're in real estate. Oh my gosh, my sister's selling. Let me get you my sister's phone number. And naturally that happens. So these forward questions are so important to know so that you can befriend all of your clients, your potential clients, your people that are in your database, and even on Facebook.
Yeah, that's great. That is. Thanks for sharing, Jen. If we take an interest in them, they'll automatically take an interest in us, and they'll feel comfortable sharing with us contacts that they have that may be interested in dealing with a real estate transaction. So when you see the forward questions, think the first one is F, for family and friends, and just have that running in your mind. Think, okay, can I ask a question about family, centered on family and friends during this experience I'm having with this person, whether it be virtual through Facebook or by telephone or actually in person, or maybe you're on the way to a home you're going to show. You can be asking some of these questions. You can learn information. So let's move on to the next one, which is O, for occupation, and Sarah will introduce us into that one. A great question, open-ended question, is because they may not have an occupation. They may be retired, or they may not be well enough to work. If you can say, well, what do you do during the day, that can often open up questions that can be to do with what they do for a living or not do for a living. What are some of the questions that we could ask that may be an advantage for us in real estate to do with understanding what they do for work? Scott?
Number one, working from home.
Yes. Yeah. And especially during a very unusual year, there's probably more people working from home now than ever before. That can pose a lot of other questions. Did you used to work, or no, is this the first time you started to work from home? Were you working at the office before then? Or maybe they were traveling and now they can't travel. But it gives you an opportunity to dig deeper into occupation questions. Just some quick ideas. What industry you work in. Maybe they're in the medical industry, or maybe they're in the the engineering industry or the construction industry or whatever. How long you've been in this business or with the company. Maybe they're self-employed, they've got their own company. Another one is, how is business? We recognize over the past 12 months, it's not been easy for a lot of people. So there are a few questions we can ask. Any other questions we can ask about business, or something that may enable us to learn more about the family or the client we're working with when we ask occupation questions?
I like to ask how their commute is, just kind of find out, are you traveling an hour work, and is that working out for you, versus if you're 10 minutes away or something like that?
That's a great question. Because then, of course, you can say, is this like a long-term thing? You're having to travel an hour every day to work in the morning and back home in the evening. Have you ever considered maybe finding a property close to where you work if this company is something you'll be with for a long term? That's a great question, because it introduces you into a platform of maybe some real estate. Any other thoughts on what sort of questions we could ask with regards to occupation that may lead us into some more information, or even to a progressive contact? Can I squeeze one more little comment out there from someone? How about someone who's not said anything yet? Whatever you say is going to be good. What's another question we could ask related to their business that may be helpful to us as we try and see how we can help them?
I think there are some incentives for certain professions for loans, so that might be something
Very, very good.
to bring up.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I think for teachers and such, but that would be something more like you could just point them in the direction of a lender, but just remind them when they're getting ready to buy that you might be entitled to your I don't know. I'm trying to remember what the incentive is. I thought it was like I don't know. Anyway, but I think there are certain incentives for different professions.
Yes, there are. I'm not sure exactly what all of them are. I mean, obviously, we do know that the VA loans are pretty good at the moment. But yeah, that is something we could definitely talk about. And interest rates are pretty good at the moment. You know, that's something we can share with them. Any other thoughts? Jen, do you have anything you could add to this slide for us?
You know, remember, you guys, these questions are to help us get to know, to help us to create that connection with people that ties us to them as their realtor for life, right? So we're creating a relationship. We're trying to get to know them a little bit better, have them feel like we're interested in their life, interested in what's going on in their family, their work, their all sorts of things. And so these questions they can be anything, but I think, you know, if we're looking at it from the standpoint of, you know, maybe they work at a really big company that might have a relocation department that doesn't, or you know, something like that. Maybe we want to know a little bit more about the company they're at, and if they, you know, if you can come over as a realtor and bring treats to the employees there. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of questions like that we could be asking about their occupation. Now, again, do we really want to go in hard about let me think about me? No, but you know, if you're having lots of conversations with these people and getting to know their occupation, maybe every once in a while you can ask a question like that.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. I had a contact. I sent him an email actually just last week. I was in contact with him in December, and I recognized that he was looking for new work. I think he was being laid off, or the work was cutting down their employees, obviously, you know, due to the loss of business last year, and he was looking for work. And when I reached out to him this last week, I just sent him an email and said, "How you doing, Brent? We were able to find some new work, and you know, if so, how's that going?" And he responded fairly quickly back and said, "Hey, thanks for, you know, asking about the job. I was able to get another job. It's a little bit different to what I'm looking for, but at the moment it's working out well." And it was just basically a relationship building connection. That's really what it was. You know, he did say, "Oh, it's still in real estate. I'll keep my eyes and ears open for you. And if anybody wants any real estate, I'll let you know." So I think that's basically what we're doing. We're just trying to generate an increased relationship with these people. And one of the ways we can do that is talking about their occupation. These next two are much easier to work with. Oh, there's another one there. Do you enjoy what you do for a living? That's a good question to ask, because if they don't, and they may be looking at another job, which may be looking for a relocation, you know, so that may be something that will give you some interest. Oh, Cindy?
Stephen, Stephen, this is Cindy. What about asking them what they like best about their job? What do they enjoy the most about their job?
Yeah. What could that teach us, Cindy? What could that teach us when they answer that question?
Well, I just think that you're showing more interest in that person as an individual, not just you know, asking more about their business, but just what is it that they really enjoy doing with their occupation.
Yeah, when you do a follow-on question or an extension question, it takes you deeper into the conversation, which allows you to get a better relationship with that person. Often it helps them understand that you are actually interested in them. and you are sincere about your question. You're not just questioning because of an ulterior motive, even in the sense as realtors we kind of are doing, but we really should be interested in the people first. And if business comes, then that's great as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm a true I, so talking to people, I love to talk to people and get to know them better. So that for me, that would just be really natural to do that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yes, same here. I just think we need to make sure we come across sincere. And if we're too quick with our questions, it's like we're checking off. And I think that's the worst thing that we can do. And we do a disservice to ourselves and our profession if we come across insincere and that we're just doing this for business rather than really being interested and knowing them. And it's interesting as you're talking about all of these items that we come to know our clients better so that we can interact with them better. What a better world we'd live in if we made that same effort with our family and friends outside of business. We just try and look for the good in people and try to give them the benefit of the doubt rather than be quick to judging. And I'm the worst at that. Just whether it's a husband and wife relationship or a partner or our children or extended family and friends, let's just kind of try and implement these characteristics in how we interact with other people, not just business people.
Great suggestion. Thanks for highlighting that, Leslie Ann. Yeah, perfect. And that's why I've kind of used this visual as a ford, a stream that you walk through. This has got to be natural. It's got to be easy. It's not got to be orchestrated. It's got to come as you work in conversation with your contacts. So the forward questions are family and friends, occupation. The next one's really easy to do, which is recreation. That's one of my lines. I say to people, what do you do for fun? Because that's just a real easy question, and you'll know pretty quickly what they do for fun. And if they say, well, not really anything, then what would you like to do for fun? You know, we all need to have an out in a busy world of busyness. We need to do something for ourselves. I say to people, you know, you've got to do something for yourself, because if you're not right, if you're not, you know, firing off all cylinders, you can't really help anybody else. So it's important, you know, whatever it is you do. Leslie Ann, my wife, she likes cooking. I say, do some cooking, and she can lose herself in her cooking. You know, whether it's cooking or golfing or skiing or music or crafting or quilting or whatever it may be. You've got to do something for yourself to charge your own battery up. It's time for you. And the better off you are looking after yourself, the better you can look after other people and help other people. But if you're not right, if you're not working off all four cylinders, then it's difficult for you to be a successful anything, whether it's a successful realtor or successful husband or wife or father or mother or uncle or aunt or whatever it may be. So always do something for you. And it's good to ask people what they do for fun. I'm going to put some out here just to give you a bit of a taster, you know, of some of the things you could ask. And then let's see if you can add some to these. What are some great recreational questions we can ask?
Kind of a follow-up on the what do you do for fun? I mean, we're here in Utah, camping is huge.
Right.
If they say they have a trailer, ask them how long it is. That's a big one that you've got to know, you know, when you're looking for an RV pad, how long is the RV pad on the house? Do they have four-wheelers? Do they have side-by-sides? Are they wanting a third car garage for that? All of that will kind of tie in.
Yeah, that's a great observation. We've got a client at the moment actually building, but we went to a number of houses and he got to have two things. Number one, he got to have an extended garage because he got an extended truck. And he knew exactly how long that truck was. I think it was 22 foot. And he knew exactly how long it was. And he would go in there and he'd measure to see if he could fit. And often they're only up to like 20 foot longer. So they're like 2 foot short. So you've got to have that length. And then you've got to have the RV pad. And he wasn't just looking at the width of the RV to get in there, you know, because obviously it's quite tall. You're going to make sure you're not hitting any guttering or anything that's on the side of the house. But he's also looking at the entrance and that there's no light lamp, you know, street lamp there, or fire hydrants or anything that's going to obstruct him backing in or putting in this RV. So he was really detailed on it. It was really important. So I can't have that house. I can't get me truck in, or I can't get my RV in, or we'd find a house that the RV could fit, but he'd either have to buy a new truck for his new house, or got to find a different house because you can't extend the garage. So anyway, that's a great observation. When we're talking about recreation, we can find out what sort of goodies they've got, what sort of toys or equipment they've got. Maybe they've got a boat, you know, or a large trailer that they need housing. So great observation, Melanie. Thanks for sharing that. What other questions can we ask on recreation that can lead us to some information that might be useful?
Another follow-up for what do you do for fun would be, does your family enjoy the same thing? Because then you would know, does that person travel far to do what they love to do? Or does the whole family enjoy partaking in it and would want to move somewhere closer to do the same thing?
Oh, that's a great question. Great question. Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's move on to the next one. I've got another one. Oh yeah. How is your golf these days? A lot of people do golf over here. I was surprised. Golf's quite a big industry here in Utah. Another one I've noticed is that a lot of ladies do quilting. There must be some sort of quilting association here in Utah. I know a lot of people that do quilting. But yeah, if you're aware of hobbies or crafts or interests that, you know, your clients have, it's good to ask those questions, because that can lead on to other things. Particularly if they're involved in some sort of association. You know, let's say, for instance, and I don't know if there is or not, I just said that because I know a lot of people do quilting, but let's say, for instance, there was a quilting association, or I don't know, maybe they were doing an exhibition or something or other that was going on, and they were opening up for booze, you know, event booze. There may be an opportunity that they could get you in to have a little stand on real estate. But these sort of questions can lead to other opportunities that could be helpful to us.
I actually got something I could add to that too.
Yes, thank you, Austin.
So I have a client actually that their kids are in after school programs, and they wanted a school district that didn't do any distant learning, so their kids could be at the school and get the learning that they needed. So we're looking for school district, or at a school district that didn't do strictly distant learning, and that kind of limited where they were looking for homes as well.
Good, very, very good point. Thank you for sharing. Any other comments on the R, recreation? And the next one's even easier, which is dreams. And, you know, we can come up with various things on dreams. You know, holidays, do you have a trip planned this summer? We may know their daughter's graduating. Do you have any plans for that? Maybe they're considering buying a second home. I know there are a lot of people that do have second homes. That may be something to share. Anybody got some ideas that we could ask on dream questions? Must have someone out there who's got some ideas on dream questions.
What is your dream home?
That's the perfect one, isn't it? Or are you in your dream home? Maybe say, no, not quite, but we are thinking of moving next year, and then you've got that down because next year is going to come and go. Yeah, dream home, perfect. Any other thoughts on dreams? There it is, Merlin's back. That third keyword is going to be dreams. So, third keyword, you've been given two keywords. You have a problem with the other two, talk to Leslie Ann. But this third keyword will be dreams, D-R-E-A-M-S, dreams. That'll be the third keyword. Any other comments or thoughts on dreams? I'm just going to ask Jennifer, if she's still there, she could just comment collectively on the 4 questions and how she's found them to be useful, particularly working with, not just clients, but also agents.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these questions are designed for when agents say, when we say, have you talked to your SOI? And they say, well, I don't know what to talk about. These questions are designed to give you topics to talk about. The family, their occupation, their recreation, their dreams. Those are the things that make it so easy to have a flowing conversation. Before you know it, you've been on the phone half hour with them and it feels like an old friend, right? And it could have been someone you hadn't talked to in 5 years. And so these questions are so crucial to our business that I want everyone to know these really well. And the acronym FORD makes it so easy to remember them. So just remember, I love your picture example there, Stephen, of walking through a street. I love that. That's great. These four questions will help us gain that credibility back with people. So if this year your goal was to go hit up your SOI again and start to mine your gold mine, which is your SOI, then this is a great place to start. Use the 4 questions to pick up the phone, start talking to them, send them an email. Who knows how you want to communicate with them? Maybe nowadays it's all over text, but you know what I mean? Just communicate with them and these are great guidelines of how to ask questions to get to know them a little better and get them talking to you and get them feeling connected to you again.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jen, for that.
Sure.
No, Jen said it's easy. These need to be easy. And it is easy. It needs to be relaxed. And I think as we learn more about our clients' interests and what they're doing and where they are in life, we also will be able to figure out what characteristic they are. And that'll help us down the track when they come and say, hey, we've been thinking about this, maybe this home selling, and we're thinking maybe this is something we want to do now, but where do we go from here? And if you know that they're a D or an I or a C or an S, that may give you an advantage on that first early presentation. So basically what we've done today, we've looked at these 4 different areas. We looked at the history of it. I think history is important because it gives us an idea. It's not been just dreamt up in the last few years. It actually comes from somewhere. And there is some depth of goodness and strength in these platforms. And today we have the opportunity to take the test. If some of you have not taken that test or one of these tests, I would recommend you do it. It's a good evaluation of yourself, but not only that, it gives you a broader picture of how you can relate some of those review paragraphs with other people that you're working with, because it's quite detailed. Here in Presidio, we deal with the Tony Robbins one, which is very simple, probably only take you maybe 15 minutes to do, so it's not difficult, and you'll get your report pretty quickly by email. But there are others out there as well. Some are a bit more detailed, but generally speaking, they are all based on the same 4 platforms, and basically is how we interact from inside. So finally, before we close up this class, which we'll do in a few minutes time, has anybody got anything they can share, or maybe there's something they've learned today that will help them use this DISC principle in strengthening their business relationships as a realtor? Must be something we learned. Or I have to replan this. I'm only joking. Did we learn something? Can I squeeze one little something from someone out of this group?
My name's Janice, and
Janice, we're glad to have you on board. I don't see everybody. I only see like 3 or 4 pictures. So when you speak, I get to see you. Thank you for coming in at the late hour. Tell us what you learned.
As with any, especially Presidio's classes, you learn a lot. But I think this has helped us to be able to distinguish a lot of the different personalities and things that we do deal with, because every situation will be different, no matter if it's, husband, wife, whatever. And I think this is, if we just reflect back on this, then it's going to, I think, help us address our clients and be able to help them a little bit better.
Wonderfully put. Thank you very much. It's really just another bag of tools we can use to help us. It's a bag of resources. It's some other pieces of the puzzle that we can use to help us identify people's needs and people's wants, and also hopefully have a better relationship with clients. If we can figure out where they are and how they operate, that can help us better communicate with them without any offense or uncomfortableness. Anybody else have anything to say at all? I'd like to, before we finish up, just hand a few moments over to Jen for her to evaluate where we are on this. But does anybody else want to say anything before we do that? You've been a great crowd to work with today, and surely appreciate you coming on the class, and hopefully we can take some of these nuggets with us and be better realtors down the track.
Can I just say that I will put the link in now to the chat. You need to click on this to get your credit and fill out the required information. So I just shared that with everyone. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'll put my phone number in the chat as well. You can call or text me or shoot me an email. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, would you like to close up with some final thoughts on this class?
Well, sure. Thank you, Stephen. This was such a great class today. I really appreciate it. I love the DISC profile. And like, I loved how you brought that history in, because I didn't even know all that stuff. All the other, I mean, I've taken a Myers-Briggs course, and I really do like that one because it does kind of get into the emotional side of things. But DISC is a real quick assessment of who you are, and it also helps to know how you interact with people. If you haven't taken the test already, I can also share that link of how to, the free version of Tony Robbins' DISC test. If anyone wants it, just go ahead and say you want it in the chat. If not, I won't put it in there, because most realtors have taken it. Okay, I'll put it in there. So, but it is such a great way to understand yourself. And what's really cool is kind of something that Jenny H&L, I hope I'm saying that right, she was saying earlier, is that her levels were all kind of the same. And one of the cool things about your report is that it'll say you show up sometimes like this. And because we're all realtors, oftentimes we show up in a manner that we may not be. Like, for instance, I'm a high I, right? In my test, I'm a high I. When I go home at night, I know none of my neighbors. I don't talk to any of them. My husband, he's the SC, and he knows all the neighbors, and he goes and talks to them. But because, as realtors, we're having to talk to people all day long, and like Jenny had said, we turn it on for them. When I get home, I just want to zone out and not talk to anybody. And so it's kind of interesting to learn about yourself so deeply that way, to understand how you show up in public and how you really are. And then that makes it so it's so easy to identify quickly who your clients are. And again, I'm a high D as well. I had a client once sold his multi-million-dollar house, and he was a CEO of a really big company. And he came to me and he said, okay, when we had an offer, I want you to tell them this and do this and do this. And he was telling me how to do my job. But just like Stephen Pressbury said, sometimes when you have a high D like that, even if I am a D, I allowed him to be the D. And so learning these things is so crucial for your business. And I'm super excited for all of you to learn this, because it will change your business. If you've been doing business the same way your whole career and just being yourself, which is beautiful, don't get us wrong, be yourself. But to be able to communicate really well with a certain personality style will truly allow your business to flow, allow people to go, oh my gosh, he or she knew exactly what we needed. She helped us through the entire process, and they want to refer to you. And so this is such a great thing to learn. Here at Presidio, we make these things super important for our agents to understand, so that they can take on an array of clients rather than all just high I's or all high D's, right? So, I mean, you never know what kind of client you're going to get. So it's great to know this profile and understand people. But Stephen, you did a great job. Thank you so much. What a great class.
Thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate you being with us today and sharing that thought. That was a great final thought. Unless we've got any other questions or comments, we'll conclude this class. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. On the link, there's no place to put that. Oh.
Okay, so I sent the link to our new calendar. I resent. It's the second link. That is the one. So for you non-Presidio agents, the first link is for you to sign up classes. We have a new format. The second link is for you to get credit. So yeah, so you'll see I said sorry and then did a new link. Do you see that? Let me just send it again.
Do you want both forms filled out?
No, the other form is if you want to attend another class, and it gives you the options, excuse me, to sign up for more classes.
Oh, because the first form, I see there was nowhere to put any secret words.
Right, so it was the second one which I just resent you.
Oh, okay. Apparently I wasn't listening.
So Mary just commented, and Janelle, and then it's the one up from that.
Okay, did you get that, Scott? Can you see it?